The old woman's hands were shaking before she even sat down. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Everyone in that restaurant could see it. Her coat was torn at the sleeve. Her shoes didn't match. But her eyes still held something proud, something that refused to beg. She just wanted a warm seat, and maybe a cup of soup. The owner saw her from across the room, and his face changed instantly. "We're full," he said, before she even opened her mouth. But the restaurant was half empty. Everyone at the nearby tables noticed the lie hanging in the air. The old woman lowered her eyes, the way people do when they've been told no so many times that it stops surprising them. She turned to leave, slow, careful steps, like her knees remembered every hard winter she'd survived. That's when the door opened again. A soldier walked in. Tall, steady, the kind of presence that made a room go quiet without him saying a word. His uniform said Thompson above the pocket, and the patches on his shoulder told a story of deployments most people in that restaurant would never understand. He saw the old woman first. Not the owner. Not the wine glasses. Not the polished tables. Her. And something in his face shifted, like he recognized a kind of pain he'd seen before in places far from home. "Ma'am," he said gently, "are you being helped?" The owner stepped forward fast, trying to smooth things over. "Sir, welcome. Right this way. We have a table ready for you." "I asked her a question," the soldier said, not raising his voice, but not backing down either. The old woman looked up at him, surprised that anyone had looked at her like she mattered in a very long time. "They said they're full," she whispered. The soldier looked around at the empty tables, then back at the owner. Nobody in the restaurant moved. Forks stopped midair. Conversations died mid-sentence. Because everyone could feel it, something important was happening, right there, in the middle of an ordinary afternoon. If a story like this is reminding you that kindness and courage still exist in this world, even in the smallest, quietest corners of it, that's exactly the kind of stories this channel exists for. If you believe that, hit like, subscribe, and share this before we go further. Because what happens next is going to stay with you. The owner's jaw tightened. "Sir, this isn't your concern." She was leaving anyway. "She's not leaving," the soldier said. "She's sitting with me." He pulled out a chair, right at the best table in the house, near the window, and looked at her with a kind of respect she hadn't felt in years. "Please," he said, "sit." Her hands trembled as she lowered herself into the seat. Tears built at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them back, too proud to let them fall in front of strangers. The soldier sat across from her like she was the only person in the room. What none of the other customers knew, what even the owner didn't know yet, was that this wasn't the first time this soldier had seen a woman turned away from a warm place with nowhere else to go. Years ago, overseas, in a village half destroyed by war, an old woman with the same tired eyes had shared her last piece of bread with him and 2 other soldiers, when she had nothing left to give. She didn't know their names. She didn't ask where they were from. She just saw hungry young men, and she fed them. He never forgot her face. He never got the chance to thank her. So when he saw this stranger being turned away, something inside him refused to let history repeat itself. The owner, embarrassed now under the stares of his own customers, tried one more time. "Sir, I really think it's best if—" "How much would her meal cost?" the soldier asked, cutting him off calmly. The owner blinked. That's not the point." "It is exactly the point," the soldier said. "You didn't turn her away because there wasn't room. You turned her away because of how she looks." The restaurant went completely silent, because everyone knew it was true. The old woman looked down at her hands, ashamed, not of herself, but of a world that could be so cruel over something so small. Remember this moment, because the biggest twist in this story hasn't happened yet, and when it does, you won't see it coming. The soldier reached into his jacket and placed something on the table. Not cash. A small photograph, worn soft at the edges from years in his pocket. It was a picture of a woman, much younger, in a war-torn village, handing bread to 3 exhausted soldiers. He turned the photo around so the old woman could see it. Her breath caught. Her eyes, tired and clouded with age, slowly widened with recognition. "That was you," he said softly. "Wasn't it? Outside Kandahar. 15 years ago." Tears spilled down her weathered cheeks. She reached out and touched the photograph like it was something sacred. "I didn't think anyone remembered," she whispered. "I never forgot," the soldier said. "You saved 3 strangers who had nothing to offer you. And I promised myself that if I ever had the chance to return that kindness, I would. The restaurant, once filled with judgment, was now filled with something else entirely, a heavy, humbled silence. The owner stood frozen, his earlier words echoing painfully in his own mind. The soldier ordered the finest meal on the menu for her, not out of pity, out of gratitude. And as she ate, slowly, gratefully, with dignity finally restored, the entire restaurant watched a woman who had been invisible an hour earlier become the most important person in the room. Because sometimes the people we walk past without a second glance are the ones who once saved someone else's life with nothing but kindness and a piece of bread. And sometimes, years later, that kindness finds its way back home. If this story touched you, remember, you never know who the person next to you really is. Treat everyone with the dignity they deserve. If you believe stories like this still matter, subscribe for more, because there are so many more hearts out there still waiting to be told.